And now I'd like to invite Bjorn Bolstad Skjelbred with us here. Now, his work, which was premiered by us in the Royal Academy of Music in March, is a longer work with
six movements.
And the first movement is closely related to Messiaen because it refers to Crystal Night, and for those who don't know, Messiaen's Quatuor pour la fin du temps was written during his captivity in a stala. And after that, what we liked very much about Bjorn's work was that he ramificated, if you say that. Ramified. Thank you. Ramified his perception and interests in the world of poetry and in the world of painting. So, two of the works are references to Pollock, the painter, one of which you'll listen to it tonight, which is written for clarinet solo. And the one we are going to talk to now is what it seems a very simple piece. It is a reference to Maurice Ravel's Gaspard de la Nuit, which is a famous piece for piano solo. And it is quite a dramatic picture. Before I might say something about it from my point of view as a pianist, I'd like to give Bjorn the word first.
To make something based on a model, what this project is about, much of my time before writing was to analyze the pieces as models, both the Messiaen and also this piece. The quartet, my quartet as a whole, is based or built up in much the same way as Messiaen's quartet, with different movements, different combinations of instruments, one solo clarinet piece. In many ways, the Messiaen quartet's movements are put together. The first one, the solo clarinet piece from Messiaen, was the first one written of the movements of the quartet, the Messiaen piece. And many historians say that this piece wasn't originally meant to be in a larger context. It was the first piece he wrote that was later to be put in a larger context, because one of the persons he met during his captivation was a clarinet player, a remarkable clarinet player. And when going into the Ravel, I had to analyze the piece. And as a pianist myself, I have heard it many times. So how to write something based on another piece is actually I borrowed or I stole some of Ravel's material. And same as in the Messiaen. Stravinsky told his students, you shouldn't loan things, you should steal them. So I did. And the fellow composer, Luca Francesconi, Italian composer, he told me once that every composition reveals itself in the first 20 or 30 seconds. In the first 20 or 30 seconds, you have the key to the composition. So I would like you to play the first 30 seconds of the Ravel before the melody starts. Just so you have the sound. Through the whole piece. It lasts for 6 minutes. This note coming again and again and again. It's a kind of echoing itself and rest of the thing, binding the piece together like some kind of glue. And there's also the 4 or 5 chords, this little cycle. What I have done is to think these 2 layers of music. One layer is repeated note, like a line, and the chord sequence. I stopped there. That's more than enough material for me. So what I've done is focused on this one layer. Let's also go through my piece. And instead of just repeating the same sound, I'll try to nuance it and show these notes is repeating them from different angles with different instrumentation. And the other level is the harmonics, the chords that are dragged out in time. I think this movement lasts for 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 2 minutes. And it just the same sequence of chords will stretch out in time. So it's kind of making a shadow. When you use a model, you come in the original piece shadow. So this is kind of a shadow of Rovette's piece. So, if, for example, the 2 layers, and just to make you listen the same way that I do, I listen to these 2 things going on at the same time. So you can choose to focus on one thing or the other, or try to listen to both of them. So if you could play without the piano, the first 3 bars of the movement.
Bjorn, before we go into playing, would you mind if I read? Because maybe people are not aware. I mean, we didn't even name the title of the piece, did we?
Your French is better than mine.
Raphael's is Le Gibet, and Bjorn is in the shadow of Le Gibet, the Gibet. And the Gibet was written on a poem by a Frenchman, Aloysius Bertrand. And maybe I should read the poem. It's very short. Or perhaps an English person. No? Because the atmosphere, the eerie atmosphere and dramatic atmosphere of this piece, I think, has to be caught from the direction of the poem as well. What do I see stirring around that gibbet? Ah, that which I hear. Was it the north wind that screeches in the night, or the hanged one who utters a sigh on the fork of the gibbet? Was it some cricket who sings lurking in the moss and the sterile ivy, which out of pity covers the floor of the forest? Was it some fly in chase, sounding the horn around those ears, deaf to the fanfare of the halloos? Was it some scarab beetle who gathers in his uneven flight a bloody hair from his bald skull? Or then, was it some spider who embroiders a half measure of muslin for a tie on this strangled neck? It is the bell that tolls from the walls of a city, under the horizon, and the corpse of the hanged one that is reddened by the setting sun. Macabre.
That's the first 3 bars.
Oh,
You can join the first. You can join the first one. 15. 12 plus 9, 15. Different nuance of the same note. The last example from 24 to 26. Without the piano. 21 to 26. The second layer will be the chords in the piano. For example, the first one is in bar 12.
Oh, you just went
It's almost the same chord. You mentioned the Diabolus in Musica. One way that the Impressionists was when they put dark colors on the chords, they put fourth lower in the bass. So if you take the same chord and change the A to B flat.
Sorry, I want to do
You can
it.
try.
I didn't hear what you said actually.
Both Ravel and Debussy used kind of dark shadows, like if this chord was like this, they would put in the bass instead of darkening like this. Little shadow, more modern shadow would be that one.
Yeah.
It's the kind of same thing with a bit darker.
And could I ask you here, because of all these long notes in the other instruments, how does the pianist judge? I mean, is this ad libitum? How does the pianist judge? Is it really as one can judge one's best? Because there is no saying where the pulse is. How should I count? I mean, I'm quite happy to just feel this, but you don't have an answer.
I have two answers. Music like this, chamber ensemble, it could be interpreted in two ways. You could interpret it as you were conducted. Someone was instructing you to keep the pulse, or you can practice with metronome and try to get it. The other way is to make it open and kind of maybe flexible, and then you make the judgments.
Yeah.
I don't know which way is the best. Depends on the musicians.
Bjorn, can I ask another question? I just noticed part 26. I've just picked up. There's a mezzo forte, no crescendo mark before. There's some button. Is it just left out? Is it? Because it's start of crescendo down. It could bar 26. But it's also because it comes at the start of my glissando down. So whether that's.
I think it's left out.
Oh, sorry, so I should do it slightly. So I wasn't sure. I thought it would work nicely either way.
So the chord sequence is the same chord sequence. They are spread out a bit and shadowed with the dark notes. It's the same chords as Ravel's chords. It's just the introduction stretched out for 2 minutes from 30 or something. To try and this kind of music, you have this little note that's repeating as the bell in the poem.
Yeah.
It's kind of the essence of the Ravel's picture. So I was very fascinated by it the first time I heard it. So I focus on this for itself, to kind of lock it in.
No, but it is surprising how much you can do with one sound. It just depends how you play it, what length you give it, what color you give it. Ravel actually does something. Maybe we shouldn't get into this laborious conversation, but Ravel does something very interesting because he starts on the second half of the second beat. I mean, you might wonder why.
Because
you start on the fourth beat.
Yes, you play that kind of, you play differently.
But I mean, this, in a way, but with this kind of music, repetitive music, in the end, you don't know the beat. You don't know where the beat is.
Some questions shouldn't be answered.
Well, some questions shouldn't be put at all, maybe. So, we are waiting for the performance, yes? To play the whole thing. Thank you very much.